I am the co-I of this community action research. So these are the things that I'm going to introduce you to, the rationale and meaning of the project. I'll also introduce to you some of the things that students have done, some of the problems and limitations, and what we might do to follow up. So the reason we came up with this project is that it's always something that we struggle with as teachers of sociology, because it's quite an academic subject. A lot of students, they find it difficult to relate it to real life, or what does it really mean, and so on. So this is why Hanfei came up with this project. So the question we ask ourselves is this: what are the uses of sociology and social sciences for our society? What can I do as a student and a scholar to help change the world? So the emphasis is not so much in the academics, but more in the applied sense of it. A common urge to utilize sociological knowledge in making sense of various public issues, particularly problems facing specific groups and local communities. So we found that through our experiences of teaching in Lingnan, that this is something that students, that they will come up with, right? So what can I do now that I know these theories, now that I have these concepts, what can I actually do to make a difference in actual groups and communities that I am familiar with, that I'm interested in? Okay, and we hope that this project could be a start in driving positive social change, or have this to instill this in our students. I think by doing a project like this, you can actually make a difference. So what we want to do is to overcome the limitations of classroom teaching and conventional research by engaging students in the real, evolving social world. So how do we do this? To begin with, we encourage students to start with a dialogue with stakeholders. This could be NGOs that they're familiar with, or other community groups that they already have some connections with. And the main thing that we want to do in terms of overcoming the limitations of classroom teaching and so on is to give them more flexibility, because our program already has at least 2 or if not more projects where students have to do research, individual or group research. But those types of research projects are typically very demanding in whether you follow the literature review, follow a certain style of writing, and has to be in English. The issues you have to be able to illustrate how it's relevant to theory and so on. So we decided in this we want to relax it. Students could write their project in English or Chinese. They have to have a description of the background to the problem that they're trying to address, but it doesn't have to make reference to academic journals, and so on and so forth. So we decided to relax these requirements to make it different from what they normally do in a research-related course. And we also want to build what we call like a learning community. We encourage the students to learn amongst themselves, for the different groups to communicate with one another, so they would really enjoy and to really build it themselves, how they could teach and learn from one another. So even though the individual instructors in IME and Hanfei, we do consult with them several times throughout the year. We do not tell them what to do. We do not tell them this is wrong, this is right. You come to us with questions. We try to give suggestions to you. So again, this relationship is very different from what you will have in a supervised research project. So these are some of the projects. This is done by one student, Jeff. Some of you may be familiar with him as a Year 4 student, and the topic of his research is Learning for Learning's Sake, Student Perception of Liberal Arts Education in Hong Kong. Again, we did not vet it. This is what he came up with, and we would support you in whatever you want to do. We give some advice, but again, he doesn't have to follow them, because this is not a credit-bearing thing, right? And also, they will get, each group or each student doing the project, they get a budget. See, if they have to print stuff, they have to go somewhere, they have to organize certain activities, we give them a very small budget to help them make it possible. Because with zero money, it's very little you can do. Okay, so I think the main attraction of the program is in this as well. So these are some of the research questions or the aims that he tries to achieve. He wants to examine the ideal and actual implementation of liberal arts education in the Lingnan community. He wants to pinpoint possible discrepancies between teachers and students' perceptions of what liberal arts education is, and to analyze potential problems of educational stereotyping in Hong Kong. So I think it's very relevant to what the university wants to know, and also what a lot of teachers and students want to know as well. So there's a website that we have. So he designed and designed off in this mission website. Sorry, I didn't prepare this, like I said, so I'm not sure what this is. Let me have a look. Ah, okay. So he actually designed a website where he disseminated and collected information for this project. So there's a detailed report as well for his findings. And the second project is by a group of students who are interested in studying misunderstandings and discriminations faced by transgender people in Hong Kong. So they did a questionnaire survey and also in-depth interviews with a transgender person to find out how people look at transgender persons in Hong Kong. And again, they also have a video that they made. Sorry, I'm going to skip this because it's going to take too long to load. Oops, oh, there it is. So I believe this... Right, I'm going to close this. Okay, but this is the third project. This is by a cultural studies student, and she is interested in studying sex education, and she herself is a founding member of a young persons-led sex education group called Sticky Rice Love. So she is personally very involved in this issue, and so she used a bunch of in-depth interviews to find out how university students think about their sexual identities and behaviors, and how the lack of sex education is actually related to the problems that they face. And the fourth project is by a year 2 student, determinants of social cohesion amongst Pakistanis in Hong Kong, and she again did some in-depth interviews with Pakistani members of the Pakistani community to find out the issues that they're facing in Hong Kong. And she has collaborated with a community center, which helped her contact the respondents and so on. So all these projects are now on a website that we have made, which included their reports and also a video that they each made about their projects. So it's linked to our departmental website, I think. So we also use this to encourage students to think about how you can use your skills that you have learned in social sciences to do something that is related to what you are personally interested in, something that can actually contribute to the community. And this has also become a good resource for us to introduce to students in our credit-bearing courses related to research. I.e., well, research could be like this. It could be interesting. It could be in Chinese. It could be, you may not need to have quotes from academic journals. It could be something that's much more down to earth, something that's related to everyday life. But of course, there are also some problems and limitations. There is one project which is unfinished, and also because students really are very, very busy, and this is a non-credit bearing project that they have volunteered to do, so they do find it difficult to keep up with the schedules, and we did have to nudge them and remind them, time's running out, where's that thing you promised that you will deliver? So that is a limitation as well. And because not all our students are involved in this project to have social sciences training, like some of them is from cultural studies, so the training is very different. So in terms of how to analyze interview data or how to design a survey, they will need some help from the instructors. And limited access to NGOs, because when a student comes to us and there's a project they want to do, we try to utilize our own resources to put them in touch with NGOs or agencies which can help them build the project or to find interviewees or respondents for the surveys. But because this is still a very small network, so there's one limitation as well. Now, of course, the final question is, where is the action and the change? So they have come up with this idea, they have done some research. What is the next step? What can we do as teachers to encourage them, to give them ideas as to how they could bring it forward? Right, so this is something that we still need to work on. So in terms of follow-up, Honfa is now writing up a 3-credit course. It's called Community Studies. So there'll be more systematic introduction to the concepts and methods that you could do in actually doing community studies and action research. And we're hoping to, in this course, there'll be incorporation of a service learning element to help them access NGOs. And in this course, Honfa is also planning to invite NGO leaders to familiarize students with the real-life world of actually trying to make change, which is what a lot of NGOs try to do.
And a very important thing that I think as a faculty, I'm speaking of social sciences, that we need to do is to build a regular collaborative and mutual learning networks with the NGO, and not just always rely, we tend to rely on the OSL quite a lot with these things. But over time, we now know that we, as a faculty, we ourselves have to develop those links and not, just to assume that that is the one unit that will take care of those things for us. So that's it for my very brief presentation. I hope there's enough for you to ask me questions about it. And like I said, there's a website that we have designed that we showcase our students' projects, which I hope you will have time to take a look and will find it interesting. Thank you.